The article review for this week is Neuropsychological Functioning in Postpartum Depressed versus Non-Depressed Females and Non-Postpartum Controls. This research study was done to determine if postpartum depression, mood, or emotional factors play a part in cognitive functioning. This study concluded of 67 women. They were participants in this study of neuropsychological cognitive functioning. This study had a hypothesis that postpartum cognitive difficulties could be partially due to postnatal mood problems. The method to this research study, the two testing methods used in this research study are the Ray Auditory Verbal Learning, or also known as RAVLT, and two, the Trail Making Test, also known as the TMT test. 43 women that had given birth within 30 to 58 days before the study started were recruited for this research study. 21 of those women who reported depressive symptoms were grouped in the postpartum depression group, also known as the PPD group. And you'll see this, these acronyms in the following slides. 22 of those 43 women, also postpartum, who scored the lowest, and the test that was used to determine whether they were depressed or not is called the Quick Inventory of Depressive Symptomatology, QIDS test. So out of the 43 women, 21 tested above a 5 and 22 women tested under a 5, concluding that they were not depressed. So these 22 women were then grouped in the postpartum non-depressed group, or the PPND. Lastly, 24 women that were non-postpartum, healthy, and matched the women's educational and age level were grouped in this study and called the controls group. Now, this is one of the strengths that I found in this study, is that they did include women who were not postpartum, that were healthy, that were within the same age and educational level, because it gives you an overall view of women within the same range, again, same age, same educational level, but you can see the difference whether women who are non-postpartum and women who are postpartum, where the difference in emotion and mood lay. Now the analysis. The trials using the two testing methods and the three different groups were as follows. There were 4 trials done in this study. The first trial is the RAVLT Trial 1. They tested the PPD group versus the controls group. Now, let's remember that the PPD is the postpartum depressed group versus the control group, which is non-postpartum and healthy women. The PPD group tested significantly lower than the controls. Let's remember that the hypothesis for this study was that the postpartum cognitive difficulties could be partially due to postnatal mood problems. So in the trial number 1, we see that yes, the postpartum depressed group tested significantly lower than the control group. In the RAVLT Trial 2, where the postpartum non-depressed women were tested versus the controlled group of women, the postpartum non-depressed women still tested significantly lower than the controls group. With the second testing method, the TMT Trial 1, the postpartum depressed women versus the controls group of women, the PPD also tested significantly lower than the control group. In the second trial of the TMT, where the postpartum non-depressed women versus control women were tested, again, the PPND tested significantly lower than the control group. So what does this all mean? After the study was conducted, the discussion was as follows. While the postpartum depressed and postpartum non-depressed groups both tested significantly lower than the controls group, which all were women that were not postpartum, those women all tested significantly lower than the non-postpartum women. However, the results between the PPD and the PPND, when compared, there wasn't much of a difference between the two postpartum groups. So they took the results from the postpartum depressed women and the postpartum non-depressed women and tested their cognitive functioning and what difficulties they encountered cognitively, and their results were not that much different from each other in comparison to the difference that was noted between the postpartum groups and the non-postpartum groups. So, in conclusion, the research study supported the hypothesis that postpartum cognitive difficulties could be partially due to postnatal mood problems.